Welcome to World Transits Today. I'm Art Granoff. Connect with me at referenceastrology.com. Today, I'm going to show June 2024 World Transits in Archetypal Astrology. Start today with the big news. Donald Trump guilty of paying money against the laws of New York State accounting to someone for some service. And the jury found him guilty. So he's guilty. Let's look at his transits. He's got Mars trine Mars. Look at that. Mars trine Mars from mid-May to mid-June. I bet he's angry. Mars. He's got Mars square Saturn. From the end of mid-June, Mars square to Saturn right there. Force meets resistance. It's going to be tough around that house for a little bit. And Saturn trine Saturn. Just starting. Saturn transit on top of Saturn. No meets no. So doesn't look too happy over there at the Trump house. Mars, Saturn, and Saturn. Then also for the big transits, Pluto trine Saturn just finished for 6 years. I mean, that's a long transit. Pluto Saturn's the ego crush. It's the annihilation of tradition, what's standard or regular, just crushing the ego. I just went through a Pluto square Saturn transit for close to 7 years. Let me tell you, ego crush happening. He's got Pluto trine Neptune. Pluto trine Neptune. Just starting February 2024 till January 2030 for 6 years. Transformation of delusion. Guy's probably not going to stop. It's going to get more delusional with Pluto intensifying that delusion. And Pluto opposite Pluto. Right there, Pluto, opposite Pluto, just started last year and runs for the next almost a decade. Pluto opposite Pluto, similar to the US Pluto return, just heavy stuff, intensity, doubling down. And also, Neptune trine Saturn, Neptune right there, trine to Saturn. That's been going on since March 2020 to 2024. Neptune's imagination or delusion, and Saturn's reality. So, Neptune trine Saturn for the last few years. Guy's been running around screaming about the 2020 election. Neptune trine Saturn. Okay, did it. The news, Donald Trump. See you later. And now, let's get into Mars square Pluto. Big transit happening most of the month. See, it started the other day, Wednesday, the 29th, and runs till about the 24th. So it's about 3+ weeks of Mars square Pluto. Mars is action and strong will, and Pluto is power and intensity. So when these two get together, let's see what we got. Rick says powerful will, assertive energy, aggression, extreme courage in action, willful activity. Or on the shadow side, intense clash of wills, being overcome by anger, extreme competitiveness, compulsive belligerence, lots of obscenities. And what does Ren say? He says intense willpower and courage, determined efforts towards renewal and regeneration, and tendencies towards brute force and ruthlessness. And art says, doing the toughest work, marshaling our energy with immense strength. And the shadow, again, intense overreaction, fear and anger, either at you or by you. So we see Mars Pluto pretty intense, also tenacious for doing great work. You see some Mars and Pluto examples. The pandemic started in March 2020, and lo and behold, we have Mars conjunct with Pluto. You know, Yuma. We have the Washington, D.C. Capitol riot. We notice we have Mars square Pluto. It was a pretty powerful day. Huh? A lot of destruction and force and strong will, one might say. Just another day at the park. We have the Ukraine war starting in February 2022. And hey, it's Mars conjunct Pluto. This pair is pretty powerful here. We notice Vladimir Putin has Mars trine Pluto in his chart, the fire element. Look at that. Mars is Sagittarius, Pluto in Leo. A lot of sparks there, huh? We've got Zelensky, and he doesn't have Mars Pluto in his chart, but check it out. He's got in his personal transits from May 2020 to May 2027. Pluto opposite Mars, right? So the whole time, the whole war, he's got Pluto opposite Mars for the next couple of years as well. And he also has Mars opposite Pluto. That's just in May of 2024. Okay. And from March of 2024 to 2025, he's got Saturn right there, square to Neptune. Saturn is what is tradition, and Neptune is imagination. So they're kind of opposites. Okay. Saturn's what's real, and Neptune is what's ideal. So I guess he's getting a taste of that. And also, from May 2021 to March 2024, he's got Uranus opposite Uranus, midlife transit. Well, he's sure getting a taste in his midlife, huh? We've got Joe Biden, US president. He's got in his chart right there. He's got Mars square Pluto. He's a pretty intense guy behind that soft, white-haired demeanor. We've got Hamas rising up on October 7th, 2023. We notice, hey, it's a Mars square Pluto right there. Mars square to Pluto. Also, that's time for the big breakthrough right there with Jupiter and Uranus on Pluto, right? So that's Jupiter, Pluto, okay, intensity expanded, and Uranus and Pluto, like the 60s. We've got Benjamin Netanyahu. Hey, look at him. He's got Mars conjunct Pluto in his chart. I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. He'll rip your head off. Everybody else's, it seems, too. And Anthony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State. Now, he's got interesting combination here of this Moon-Pluto conjunction, and the moon is opposite Mars. So he doesn't seem too effective. Or is he just like running around on airplanes? Is that what he does? I don't know. And Art Granoff, that's me. Check it out. For my personal transits, just to show you, you got to look at your personal transits, or you want to look at your personal transits as well. In my case, okay, I have Mars trine with Pluto right there, okay? Mars trine Pluto. And also, I have a long Pluto transit. Pluto trine Mars. It's going on for a few years. So the way I could look at that in the transit timeline would be like this. Okay. There's my Pluto trine Mars transit, which is from 2022 to 2030. That's a pretty long transit. And the Mars trine Pluto is right there. Okay. If you see it right over there, that little slice goes on for a week or so. That's the first portion. Now let's talk about the rest of the transits, the inner planet transits for June 2024. Let's start with Saturn conjunct Neptune. Just began a month or so ago, here for 3 full years. Saturn, again, is what's real, and Neptune is what's ideal. Saturn's the bottom line, Neptune's our imagination. They're opposites. They're opposites to each other, and they're conjunct for 3 years. Let's see where some of the inner planet transits are hitting. We notice June 2024, okay, for the whole month, we've got the Sun square Saturn and the Sun square Neptune. So the Sun would be identity. I am Art Granoff, astrologer, talking with you at the moment, live in California. That's I, me, identifying with me, the Sun. And Saturn's responsibility. Saturn's the bottom line. Saturn is either strength, what we lean on for support, something that can hold us up, or Saturn restricts us. Saturn is what we can't get through. Saturn is blocking us somehow. So either strength or restriction. Okay. And then Neptune right here, the Sun with Neptune. Neptune's imagination, what's ideal, flowing. And Sun with Neptune is identifying with flow, identifying with getting along, identifying with conjuring up stuff. Okay. Also, on the other side, Neptune can be confusion or delusion, as when you think about something, want it to happen, but it doesn't. So maybe you get upset. Sun with Saturn and Sun with Neptune, identifying with what's real, identifying with illusion. What's it going to be? Okay. And you notice in that middle of that conundrum for around June 10th to June 21st, 11 days or so, we've got both of them together. Okay, so it's a Saturn with the Sun and Neptune with the Sun. So what you want to do during these days is think about, what do I identify with? It's real. And on the other side, what do I identify with? It's my imagination. And think about it and just see what happens and flow with it. And perhaps get some insight into Sun Saturn and Sun Neptune. And then you can journal about it. Then it gets really real. Let's go further. Let's look at the planet Mercury. Okay, so for June 2024, start out, we've got a couple of leftovers from May. We've got Mercury conjunct Uranus and Mercury trine Pluto. Mercury is the mind, thinker, our thinking ability, capacity, intellectual ability, and also all communications. So if we have Mercury with Uranus, Uranus representing BPM4 right here, the experience of death and rebirth, getting out of the womb, release from custody, or commonly known as Mercury with Uranus, the aha moment when we get it. Also, Mercury with Pluto, Pluto's power, what's beneath the surface, Hades, what we have to reach for and go for. to get. So Mercury with Pluto could be your mind reaching for what's hidden. Could be reading big books, could be writing, it could be learning any subject that's deep and intense. So, Mercury with Uranus and Pluto, beginning of the month, very nice for freedom of the mind and diving into something that's pretty intense, something strong, something that calls you. So, Mercury, Uranus, Pluto, all the for month looks pretty good for your mind. So dive into something. See what you can do. We see here from around the 8th, okay, till around the 20th or so, about 12 days, it's Mercury Saturn and Mercury Neptune. So Mercury again, the mind and communication and thinking, with Saturn, either what's strong, what supports you, or what restricts. So you could say, classic example, being Mercury with Saturn, you just can't get it for some reason. Or Mercury with Saturn, maybe you grew up in a religious household and everything was restricted. Culture was restricted. Music was restricted. There was only a certain path for your mind. Everything else, no, no, no. So Mercury with Saturn. Or you could think Mercury with Saturn as a system or a paradigm where you can depend on certain things to help you in life. Mercury, Neptune, okay. If Mercury, Saturn is thinking practically, okay, about practical things, Mercury, Neptune is thinking with your imagination. It's thinking about fantasy. It's thinking about poetry, about music, about art, anything that gets your imagination going that you can think about. So Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, okay, is thinking about what's real and thinking about what's ideal. Now, sometimes we need to think about real things. You got to read the owner's book and get going. And sometimes not. Sometimes we want to like lay back, a nice poem or some music, artwork, and just chill out, right? So you got to be the one who determines what's happening when. But just so we know, from the middle of the month, okay, right there, we've got Mercury with Saturn, thinking about what's real. So get into your real stuff. And Mercury with Neptune, thinking about what's ideal. Just let your imagination flow. And then later in the month, it's Mercury, Saturn, and Mercury, Neptune again through the end of the month. Let's go to Venus. Hey, looky here. It's Venus, Saturn, okay, for the first portion of the month, and Venus, Neptune for the next portion. So Venus would be the heart, would be Aphrodite, would be aesthetics, okay, beauty, okay, how you, and Venus with Saturn, okay, can either restrict, Saturn restricts, as mentioned previously, and Venus being the heart. So it could be troubles around the heart. It could be restriction. You may have a problem there of some kind. Also, Saturn with Venus could be the happy old couple. The motif being people that have been through a lot of stuff. They're sitting around, well, they're not sitting, they're probably standing in the kitchen, stirring the oatmeal together. That's the motif that I got long ago. I'm sticking with it. And they've been through problems, and they're the older couple that's kind of made it, righty? Then we have Venus with Neptune. Now, this is really nice. Venus, the heart, beauty, with Neptune, imagination. This can be a few things. One, okay, it can be your heart deep with the transcendent. You may have some practices some heart loving practices that you do. towards the transcendent. Maybe bhakti, or there may be some type of devotion in some way. So think of Venus, heart, Neptune, transcendent, the one thing. Okay, Venus with Neptune. So if you have Venus, Saturn, and Venus, Neptune, it's Venus again with your heart all okay, on track, secure, happening. And here's Venus with your imagination. Now you can imagine that, or you could be imagining all kinds of stuff, as we well know what imagination is. So Venus, Saturn, Venus, Neptune. See what you can do with it. We have the new moon on June 6th coming up in a couple of days. And this new moon is with Sun, Moon, Saturn, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Sun, Moon, Venus. There. And coming up on the 21st, it's the summer solstice. Hey, summer's here, or midsummer, as some people say. See right here, the full moon, sun opposite the moon. This one's pretty powerful with Mercury, sun and moon, Venus, sun and moon, and Neptune, sun and moon. Look at that pretty display. So it's the sun and moon right there, both squared to Neptune, right? And it's Uranus trine Pluto, around for 10 years, and both both of them, Uranus and Pluto, sextiles over to Neptune. Looks like a great day. Hope yours is beautiful as well. So thanks for joining me, everybody, at World Transits today, showing the June 2024 World Transits. I'm Art Granoff, Reference Astrology.